You know, my mother never liked this gospel. She identified with Martha, always worried about cleaning and cooking. My wife used to say, "You can eat off Ann McCormick's floor." Now, don't get me wrong. Cleaning and cooking are good things. I am the cook in the house. I do the shopping. I drive the kids to and from school. And Jesus himself is not against action. We saw last week, after the parable of the compassionate Samaritan, he told the lawyer, "Go and do likewise." So he's not against action. Jesus' whole life is about action. But I wish that my mother had discovered what had moved Mary to sit with Jesus. Maybe I'll call her today and ask her about that. You see, I wanted her, and I want you today to learn what motivated Mary to stay out of the kitchen and sit with Jesus and listen to him and not her sister. What moved her? What inspired her to do this? So I want you to imagine Jesus walking through the gates of this village, walking through the tiny streets and coming up to Mary and Martha's house. And he knocks on the door. And Mary and Martha open the door and welcome him. And then Martha goes back into the kitchen. And Mary stays there, welcoming Jesus, having him sit down. And she starts to find that his presence, his words, are so compelling and beautiful and true that she cannot leave him. Suddenly she's moved with a new kind of desire. She's moved to sit with the men and be with Jesus and listen to him. You see, once Mary welcomed Jesus into her house, she had only one desire: to be with him, to get to know him. No longer was Mary defined by the role imposed on her by society or by her sister. As this new desire to be with Jesus emerged, she started to discover within herself a new kind of identity. The identity of being a disciple and the freedom that brings. So as followers of Jesus, I want to encourage you to discover what motivates you. Discover what desires and experiences that drive your reactions and your actions. Because self-knowledge, my friend, is crucial if we are to grow in our faith. You can see Mary driven by worry, anxiety, resentment towards her sister. Martha, driven by worry, anxiety, and resentment towards her sister. But Mary, moved to welcome Jesus and learn from him. So I encourage you, get to know the many different desires and experiences that motivate your reactions and actions. Early in June, I was swamped with work. I was trying to finish the draft of a book. I was writing a proposal that had a deadline. I had like a stack of reading this high that I hoped to get done, and I was getting a new roof on my house. And I remember getting up one morning, and I was so scattered. Should I write this other article that I'm working on to get back to the book, or what about the roof? And I was so scattered that I didn't know what to do. I was almost paralyzed, or kind of working on this for 5 minutes and then this. So I finally said, "Listen, you got to sit down, pal, and pray." And I sit down. It took me a while to calm down and quiet down because my mind kept going about all the things I had to do. But finally, I started to quiet down and allow myself to kind of just sink into the immensity of God's quiet, present love. And gradually, slowly, those scattering desires and motivations just kind of quieted down. And it became clear to me what the Lord wanted me to do. A clarity came. A new kind of motivation that gave me clarity about what I was supposed to do. So my friends, I want you to get in touch with the many forces that motivate you, external and internal, from when you were a child to right now. Because there are times, aren't there, when we're driven by fear or worry or the need to control the situation. There are times when we are driven by a need to be recognized, to receive attention. And sometimes it's resentment, it's envy, it's a hunger for power that can motivate us. But the gospel calls us to be motivated by Jesus and his mission and being about his work and nothing else. You see, when Mary welcomed Jesus into her home, all her many desires became one. Be with Jesus, listen to him, do what he asks you. And the risen Jesus keeps knocking on your door, on the door of your life. Let him in. Allow his presence, his love, his life to be the motivating force that guides your actions. Yes, we will get taken up by other desires and motivations, but come back to him. Come back to him so that he will give your life a clarity and a purpose. I want you to notice one more thing about Mary. Because when she saw Jesus, when she was in his presence and filled with that new desire, something beautiful happened. Her presence filled her with that desire to be near his beautiful presence and listen to his meaningful words. And as I said before, no longer was Mary defined by the expectations of her society, her sister. She discovered a new identity in Jesus. And my friends, let the Lord into your house and your life. Let him fill you with a desire to be his disciple so that you too will discover the new identity he has for you. He is constantly inviting you into this new identity. It is liberating and expansive. It's a new kind of status and condition from which we can live our lives. You see, we no longer need to be tied down by how society describes us or how our family defined us. No longer do we need to be defined by terrible things that happened to us or terrible things we did. We no longer need to be defined by our loss or rage or how we've been treated, because we are disciples of Jesus who are defined by living out of his beautiful, immense, loving presence. It is very liberating and transformative to allow this to happen. So who are we? We are those who are being called to live from the life of Jesus. We are those whose identity comes from sinking into the deep immensity of his love, which is calm and clear and welcoming and connecting and merciful. So I pray this morning, my friends, that this parish, that your family, that your friendships, that you discover this new motivation that Mary discovered to be Jesus' disciple. I pray that you discover and allow the love and presence of Jesus to shape your identity, and that you act towards everyone out of that identity. It makes for a beautiful life.